Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. The weather is broken here in Minnesota and we have had 50-degree highs for the last, 3-4 days now. And it looks like we got another week of really good warm temperatures. So the tree services are in full swing. I get most all the wood that I have here in the wood yard from local tree services. We got a couple of deliveries last week, some good ash and some really nice white pine that we'll mill up into construction lumber. And we're cutting the smaller white pine right now for firewood. So we're gonna get our stove stoked up. We're gonna go run the 562 in some really nice white pine and just kind of take a look at how that saw is performing. And then we'll kind of go through how I go through my production firewood splitting. I don't do a ton of firewood. I sell a little bit. I split maybe 30 or 40 cord of firewood a season. I do use a log splitter, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the equipment that I use and how I make sure that I can get the most productivity without wrecking my back. So let's go out to the pile and cut some pine, listen to that 562 run. All right, this saw's been running really good. I did have an air leak in it the first time I put it back together. We got that resolved, and it's just been cutting pretty good. So we're just going to cut up some of this white pine, and then we're going to move to splitting this so we can get it drying out. So we got it for firewood this fall. happy with how this saw turned out. I think it runs really good. I've got it filed pretty hungry. I like the chain to pull. I don't like to press hard on the saw. I like to let the saw do the work. And so in this white pine, it's pretty good. I'll turn you around here. So here is our construction lumber pile. So we're going to be milling this in the future. I'll shoot some video on it, but a guy always needs 2x4s and 2x6s. And white pine of this size is not something that we see all that often in this area. So when my guy said he had it, I said, bring it. So we'll go over here and I'll show you kind of what we do for splitting over here and what I use. All right, so I really try hard to not bend over and pick stuff up all day. I'm not an old man, but I'm not as young as I used to be. And if I was picking everything up off the ground, I wouldn't have a lot in me. I couldn't go all day out here. So I use this 2019 model John Deere 2025R here in the wood yard. And I like to take rounds and I'll use my hooker-oon and I will load the bucket. And then I will drive the tractor over to the log splitter. I'll raise the bucket up to a comfortable work height. And then all I gotta do is transfer straight over from the tractor to the log splitter. And I could do that all day long. If I bent over to pick up every piece, I would not be able to do it all day long. Maybe an extra step or two in my process here, but it lets me produce here in the wood yard for a long period of time. And before we have the naysayers, I will burn this fall. This white pine will be dry and it will be good to use. Nothing wrong with burning pine. You just have to burn more of it. And free heat is free heat in my estimation. All right, we'll take this over to the splitter. We'll get started. All right, so this is the log splitter that I use. When I went to get a splitter, I looked around at all the options. Looked at used stuff. Seemed like everybody in the market wanted $900, $1,200 for splitters that have clearly seen more than a few hot suppers. And so this is the Husky with 2 E's from Tractor Supply, a 20-ton unit, and it was $900. I got it on sale. And I tell you, for $900, I've been pretty impressed with it. It is straight from China, which most of them are in this price range. However, it has a external pump with a Lovejoy style connector, and the motor just bolts on outside hydraulic tank here, all standalone. So you can put any motor you want on this thing. You can replace the pump very easily. Everything that's on this log splitter is easily purchased, easily bought, and you can get it pretty much anywhere. So far, anything that I can physically put on this log splitter, it has not failed to split. And I have split a ton of wood with this thing. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good splitter, and it has saved me a ton of time. And the cycle time on it is pretty quick too. The work table is for a county line splitter from Tractor Supply, and it bolts right up to this thing. Even though they don't offer a table for this unit, that one bolts up to holes that are already in the beam. Just goes to show you that you always pay more for brand and color, even in imported stuff. So let's get started. So as you can see, this bargain log splitter makes pretty short work of a bucket full of rounds. And this program I got for production splitting is, it doesn't take a lot of manual labor. There's no picking stuff off the ground. You've got the work table over here. If you have a really big round and you've got stuff here, you can set it over here in the bucket. We get into really big stuff. The white pine is really easy splitting, but it performs the same in ash and other stuff that's gnarly and twisted. It splits oak with absolutely no problem whatsoever. And so all the wood that I see here in Minnesota, this little 20-ton log splitter has got all of the power I need, and it's quite quick. So, all right, well, to recap, we got about 1.5 quarts of white pine firewood split today, cut and split. The 562 is running really strong. I'm really happy with how it performs. I think that this saw is running substantially better than the Mark II that I had last year that I was unhappy with. It had screwed up. One of my previous videos I talked about where it had kind of gone stupid halfway through a tank, and the saw never was the same after that. And it had been looked at by the dealer a couple of times, and I just wasn't happy with it, and I got rid of it. So all in, I think I've got just under $500 invested in this saw, and for about half of what a Mark II is selling for today. I'm pretty damn happy with how it turned out. We're going to use this saw quite a bit more here in the wood yard and see how it holds up and see if it continues to perform as it did today. If you've got any thoughts on this job, on this build, on this saw, I'd like to hear about it down in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.